So it's probably gonna look a little sloppy. I try to keep it clean-ish, but I left all the old code in here so you can see what I changed.
Hmm.
So the first thing I had to do was get rid of this for loop. Um, and I also wanted to track digit count through each recursive iteration. So I put that in the first function call equaling to 0. And then I set its length here. And so that's only going to happen at the very beginning of the recursive call, but nowhere else. But then I'll just track it through each recursive call. Um, and then these are all pretty much the same. So I think I'm just going to go over one. Just there's one. So because it was set up to iterate through like each digit of the number when I did it. This one will be for like the 100ths. And so I think that'll be a good one to look at. So imagine like you just start with a number that's in the hundreds. It's going to know there's 3 digits in it. And then, so I'm just using an integer here. I'm just making that equal to the number, float 100. I don't know how to say that properly, but so in this case, like if it was 300, I would just equal 3. If it's greater than or equal to 5, then I would just you return the D for the 5 in the Roman numeral, and then I would do my recursive call and just carry over that digit count. If it's 1, I'm multiplying the number of C's by the integer just to know how many there were. So in this case, it would be like 3 for 300. So it'd print 3 C's, and then I would do my recursive call. And in this one, I would bring the digit count down by 1. So that way it would just go to the next digit count and go through the next number. And
Nice.
then, so each of these returns here is pretty much getting rid of this while loop here.
Hmm. Oh,
And at the very end, I just returned an empty string to get out of the function.
sure.
And it works pretty good. Like here's 3000, that number.
Hmm.
I gotta get back into this file. 1 second. I don't even know where I'm at. Oops. So there's it working with the 3467.
Right
That's
on.
just with this case.
Right on. Awesome work.
And I did factorial, but I'll let somebody else share now.
Cool. Let's since we're already on Roman numeral, let's see another implementation. Does anyone have another solution to Roman numeral?
I
Let's
got a little something, something.
Okay. Let's take a look.
Uh, you guys see it?
Hmm.
So I use this thing called, I guess, um, since we weren't doing for loops, I use this thing called bisect. And I'll show you what it does down below, but I created a dictionary and then I created a number list so I could use bisect. And basically, this right here is how bisect works. So it's basically you pass in a number list, and in this case, it's ordered, and then you pass in the number, and it basically finds where it belongs within the number list. So I have it at 449 right now passed in. So the 449 would be right here. So then it grabs this number, and then it basically is divided into 449, and however many times it's divided into 449, it'll come up to the dictionary, grab um, the value that matches the key, and then add it to the Roman numeral string. And then, but it was kind of tricky because when I had a value that equaled, like I had 9, but it wasn't giving me the index that I wanted to. So I had to do a little if else statement down here to make it work all right. But I printed the number here and then the number list at the insertion point, just so you guys could see kind of what it was doing.
Okay, okay. That is very creative. Very creative. Um, that's awesome using bisect to do a bunch of the heavy lifting for you. One comment, because it is recursion, you're creating that numbered list and that initial dictionary every single time we run through this function. So in a case like this where the number list and the dictionary aren't going to be modified, you can make them global. That way they don't have to be recreated every time you go through the recursive function. Aside from that, very impressive. Any more for Roman numeral?
I got one that like maybe what you just alluded to will help me because I was able to get it to work, but I did have to get it to work by like passing another argument, and which was the dictionary that I had. Give me 1 second. Okay. Need to just comment out this other stuff real quick. But yeah, I had my original dictionary from the problem when I solved it, and then I passed that dictionary as the keys argument. And the base case is just like once the number reaches 0, I used an empty string to get out of it. And then it's kind of doing the same thing that my while loop was doing, where if the num is greater than the first key, because these are ordered as well, then it'll basically take whatever is at that key value and add it to the string. And then for the recursive call, it just decrements the number that we had by whatever that key was. And then the important part is when we do the recursive call, we do a slice of the keys so that we're basically chopping like that first key off. And then each call will just get shorter and shorter until we reach 0.
Nice.
But I was trying to, well, I guess it's in like another code file, but I was trying to get away to not have to pass a dictionary in or have a dictionary outside of it, and I could not come up with a good way for that.
Let's see. If you're creating yeah, you shouldn't have to pass it. I see in line 43 you're referencing that dictionary. But actually I might be misunderstanding. The keys that you're passing in, that's an entirely separate dictionary from Roman map.
It is the list of the Roman map dictionary keys that I'm passing in.
I think that's fine. I think
Okay.
because you do want that list to be mutable, you do want to be able to modify the data inside of it. That is totally fine. If it was static and if it was something that you didn't need to change at all, like the actual Roman map dictionary itself, then it makes sense for that to stay outside of the function. But if you are playing around manipulating that data, then it makes sense to pass it in.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, I definitely just kept running into key errors trying it like any other way.
Right on. Awesome work. Awesome work, everyone. Let's jump into another one of the challenges. Noel, which ones were you able to solve?
Just the first 3, and then the last one wasn't working.
Right on. Do you want to? What was the last one? Was the last one the Roman numeral one?
Yeah. It works if you do just the number 1, but that's it.
Were you having trouble not using a loop? Were you having trouble trying to create your own for loop through recursion?
Yeah, I don't know. Do you just want me to share it?
Sure.
All right. Is this sharing?
Yep.
All right, yeah. This is the mess I made, which is a lot messier than the last one. And I think all this does nothing. If you do this, oh wait, no. Yeah, because this is all print. So it's just returning I and 1 every time. This is all just printing. Did you want to see a different one or?
Let's stick with this one for just a while. Let's see if we can collectively work through it a bit to see if we can get it to work. What's the first issue right now?
It just keeps erasing the string answer, so it only returns the last thing I put in.
Okay. Okay. So
this is all garbage.
So one thing I see is that you're in line 40, you're setting the new string value to be the answer. And so that might be one reason why it's erasing previous values. You can, instead of using equal, you could use plus equal.
I don't think this answer is doing anything. This was just when I was trying to plus equal them. So I had to set to nothing and then I was plus equaling it down here.
Okay, so is it final string then that we're...
That's what I was trying to add them to. It got real messy.
Right on. Okay, okay. Why don't we hop into one of the other challenges then? Yeah,
Okay.
that one of the other three.
Yeah, this is what I got. Which one did you want to hop into?
Whichever one you want to talk about.
Sure. Okay, so I got bottles of beer. So this one is this bottle's 10, so it passes in 10. It's not 0, so it goes to this and it prints an F string, so 10 bottles of beer on the wall, and then it calls it again, doing bottles with the number -1, so then be 9. It does that all the way down to 0, and once it's 0, it prints no more bottles of beer.
Okay.
I think that was the challenge. I just did it from memory.
Right on. No, it's close enough. Let's see if we could just really quick try to add another conditional to get it to, say, 1 bottle of beer on the wall.
Oh, okay. You just see like if num equals 1, then plural equals else plural equals this. And you just do plural. I think. Yeah.
Nice. Right on. Awesome work. Cool. Who else? Who else did bottles of beer on the wall? Cordy, saw you wave your hand.
Yeah. Sure, let me pull it up. Okay. Yeah, I like these kind of recursion problems because they're generally, it's just you're going kind of the next lower value. And oh god, I hate my mouse. There it goes. So yeah, it you know, if it's 0, it does its thing, and then while it's greater than 0, it basically just returns the function. Everything else is just kind of window dressing in a way. It's you know, whether or not it's bottle or bottles or that sort of stuff, and then adding the numbers in for whatever, you know, iteration you're on. But it's kind of the meat of it is just returning the function for the next lower value.
Right on. I see that. Could you walk us through the code line by line though?
Sure. Well, it starts out declaring an empty string for the verse, and then if you either feed in a 0 as the initial value, or if it gets to 0 while it's counting down, then it returns either it assigns a value to verse, and then the return is the print, so it returns the verse. If the value is anything greater than 0, then it declares another variable, another empty string for either bottles or bottles. So and what I tried to do is make it as kind of universal as possible, because if it made a mistake here, 0 should be bottles, should be up here. Anything other than 1, it would bottles becomes bottles, and then that should be just for 1. 0 would actually be bottles too. And then it assigns a value to verse, and it's just a formatted string with the num variable. And then the bottle or bottles variable. I like to put the hard returns into the string so that it actually kind of prints out like a song.
Right on.
Verses just makes it easier for me to read. It just goes through the various verses. Eventually you get to num -1 because you've taken that bottle down. It prints that variable, and then it returns the function for the next lower value, and it just keeps going theoretically until you're out of beer.
Right on. So you noticed that you misplaced the number equals 0 conditional, because when you have 0 bottles of beer, it says 0 bottle singular.
Right.
Since you caught it, you should be able to fix it really fast right now.
Yeah, just that either. There.
Cool. Let's run.
Let's see, where did we run it? We ran it here, yeah. No, it's still doing it.
Did you?
And it does it here too, so that's the other thing, is trying to figure out how to get it. And so I understand here it's calling the variable, so it's got it already. But this isn't the variable so much as it's a calculation. The num -1 is a calculation. I thought, well, what I could put I don't know if you can embed an if statement in there, or how you would do that. I thought that would get around that, but it doesn't seem to be doing that. And before I had put that in there, if it like if it doesn't equal 1, or if num -1 doesn't equal, and that didn't seem to do it either. So I'm still kind of playing them.
Right on. Okay, sorry. Does anyone else see what could be happening here to cause this to say 1 bottle's plural in one line before it says 1 bottle singular in the next line?
I think it's the num -1, because it's still taking from the original num if there's an S or not.
Right. That's what I think.
So how would you change that?
I don't know. Could you do
I think
num
I'd
equals
say
num
that
num equals num -1?
you've
No, you
the
don't wanna do
same
that.
name for 2 different variables, for singler bottles and singler bottle.
Right. Depending on the condition, depending on what the value of num is.
I mean, I could be wrong, but I think when you're declaring a variable, yeah, maybe name the variable something different since they're two different things.
But I think Corey wants the functionality of this variable either being bottles or bottle.
Okay, so that still works then.
I think Noel was right when he said that it was more so in line 30 where that num -1 is happening.
Right.
So how would we adjust this so that we can account for this one case?
We add another condition on line 26, say if num doesn't equals to 1 and num equals to 0. Would that work?
Let's give it a shot.
Well, let's look at that. That's solved because now it's gone completely. I don't have to worry about it. What the hell? What happened to it?
Maybe we also have to modify that second conditional, line 28.
Um, But either equals 1 or it doesn't.
What about if we gave it an or?
Oh, right, because it's and. No wonder it would never equal anything. Or it would only equal, it happened to be 0. That gets our bottle back.
I think we should keep that first and I was thinking that maybe we add an or to line 28.
Line 28.
Yeah, let's add another part to that conditional in line 28. Maybe something like num equals 1 or
What would it equal though?
or num -1 equals 1.
Does that need to be in parentheses or I guess it doesn't have to be. Huh?
And let's change that first or back to and.
And if we
The
change
one in-
it to and, then it's 0. Basically, you're saying if it equals 0.
Back in line
26. If you say if it doesn't equal 1 and it equals 0. And basically you're saying if it equals 0, then use bottles.
Let's give it a shot.
You want
Or,
an and in there?
leave it as is, and then let's give it a shot. Let's run it again.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know if you can get this to work without creating a new variable for when there's plural and singular bottles in the same line of the song. Because you need plural and singular both to pop and one line. When it says 2 bottles of beer, you take one down, pass it around, 1 bottle. So you'd have to create a whole new variable just for that.
That is a good point.
Is the only thing I could think of.
Do you see where what he's saying, Corey?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think that or is really not necessary, and really maybe the best option would be to break up the second part of that verse into a new block, or we create that second variable. Either way, it should correct the behavior. If you want, you can take a stab at changing that while we hop into another problem. Does anybody else want one of the other challenges?
I just thought of maybe a great idea. Could he just redeclare sing plural in the function for the second bottle part? Can you do that much?
What do you mean, redeclare it? Like, I could do, is this what you're talking about? Like saying equals bottle? Well, I don't drink beer. Is that what you mean?
I think he had something happen to his headset or something. It looked like he just stepped away.
All right.
Yeah, I think the problem with this is the way that you have your verse printed out.
Well,
would-
now you have to tell it to decide which it's going to be.
Right.
Now I know I have seen it. Then I think it's getting more complicated though. If you did something like and then you have to figure out how to tell it to pull either 0 or 1
Mm-hmm.
from the list.
That's an interesting line of thought. I think you could continue exploring that. We are out of time, so I'm going to have to cut it off. Great work overall. I like that you are using a spec to run the test. I don't think Jordan will like so much that you're using that play button, but overall, very good work. I'm going to stop the recording.